Hi everyone, my name is Lena Bakovic and I'm a registered dietitian and a certified nutrition support clinician. And today I'm here to talk to you all about my plate. You may remember a nutrition guide from a few years ago that looked more like this, and it was called My Pyramid. Now it is called My Plate. And this is the current guide published by the USDA Center for Nutrition Policy and Promotion. It's a graphic depicting a place setting with a plate and a glass divided into 5 food groups. My plate has sections for vegetables, fruits, grains, and protein foods, as well as a cup on the side for dairy. Each section is color-coded: green for veggies, red for fruits, orange for grains, purple for protein, and blue for dairy. So you can see at a glance how much of these foods to eat. My plate has a few updates from the My Pyramid. One of the updates is the former meat and beans group is now called the protein group. And this change was made to include vegetarian sources of protein. Part of the protein group are all sources of seafood, meats, poultry, eggs, beans, peas, lentils, nuts, seeds, and soy products. The message here with My Plate is to select a variety of protein foods to improve nutrient intake and health benefits, including at least 8 ounces of cooked seafood per week. The advice to consume seafood obviously doesn't apply to vegetarians. Vegetarian options in the protein food group may include beans, peas, lentils, soy products, and nuts and seeds. And the meat and poultry choices should be lean or low fat. The other change to My Plate, when we compare it to My Pyramid, is that the former milk group is now called the dairy group. And this change was made to include dairy alternatives such as almond milk, oat milk, which can provide similar nutrients to milk with fortification, with nutrients such as calcium and vitamin D. The dairy group includes milk, yogurt, cheese, lactose-free milk, and fortified soy milk and yogurt. It does not include foods made from milk that have little calcium and a high fat content, such as cream cheese, sour cream, cream, and butter. My Plate has 3 main messages, which are balancing calories, foods to increase, and foods to reduce. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about each of those. Balancing calories. The message here is to enjoy your food, but eat less. And the other message is avoiding or trying to be aware of oversized food portions. So just a little visual here that food is not nutritious until it is eaten. And just because we may be practicing portion control, food should still be enjoyed. Enjoyed, but eating less. So a little visual here depicting a scale. If we consume approximately 100 extra calories per day, this can really add up to 10 extra pounds per year. So 100 extra calories is really not a lot if you think about it, but it does add up to a lot over a long time frame. Just some food for thought. In another visual just showing that our stomachs shouldn't be a wastebasket. Eat until we're satisfied and not necessarily full or stuffed. It takes about 20 minutes for our stomachs to send the message to our brains that we're full. So a reminder here to practice mindfulness when we're eating whenever we can, taking our time to chew and savor our foods, eat slowly, pay attention to the tastes and flavors and smells even, and giving our bodies time to send that message to our brains signaling that we're full or satisfied. How can we downsize our portions? Take less, serve on smaller plates, use narrow and tall glasses versus short and wide ones for your beverages. Order smaller portions if eating out at restaurants. Split meals with a friend. Ask for a to-go box right away and put half the meal away so you can't see it. and even review calorie content of foods and beverages offered and choose lower calorie options when you can. Calorie information is usually available in menus, in pamphlets, on food wrappers, or online. Another message here is trying to limit foods high in sodium, added sugars, and refined grains. So as you can see with this image, which depicts some typical foods that are higher in these specific nutrients, those foods are usually processed, things such as salami, deli meats, packaged foods, chips, all sorts of stuff like you see here. Try to include more nutrient-dense foods. So you see a lot of color in this picture. So what are some examples of nutrient-dense foods? Nutrient-dense foods and beverages may include vegetables and fruits, whole grains, omega-3 rich fish such as salmon, dried peas and beans, unsalted nuts and seeds, and fat-free or low-fat meat and dairy products, and lean meats and poultry. So as you can see with this picture, we have a lot of color, and that's a good visual to remember. The more color, the more nutrients a food tends to contain. Quick message here about physical activity. Physical activity and diet are important regardless of weight. So just to kind of touch base on this and do a quick quiz here. Can you guess how much weekly physical activity should adults do for substantial health benefits? Is it A, 2 hours and 30 minutes of moderate intensity activity, 30 minutes five times a week? Or B, 1 hour and 15 minutes of vigorous intensity activity, 15 minutes 5 times a week? Or is it C, either A or B? It's C. It's either one. Either option or equivalent combination of the two options is acceptable. Aerobic activity should be performed in episodes of at least 10 minutes, and preferably it should be spread throughout the week. So short on time, there is easy ways to get active. 10 minutes 3 times a day. It might mean walking during a break, over the noon hour, while waiting for a load of laundry to get done, or after dinner, just as a few examples. The second message of My Plate is thinking about what types of foods to increase. So we already kind of talked about some nutrient-dense foods. And another easy way to think about this is looking at the plate, immediately make half of your plate fruits and vegetables. And then turn the other half and make at least half your grains whole grains. Switch to fat-free or low-fat 1% dairy. So here's a plate where we're looking at it. We take the plate and we cut it in half and fill up that one half with fruits and veggies of many colors. And like I said, usually the deeper and richer the color, the more nutrients that food tends to contain. Try to pick a variety of vegetables from each vegetable subgroup. So for example, from the dark green group, all fresh, frozen, and canned, dark green leafy veggies are included in here. Broccoli, spinach, romaine, collard greens, mustard greens. The red and orange vegetable group, same thing, fresh, frozen, and canned are just as good. Tomatoes, red peppers, carrots, sweet potatoes, even pumpkin fits in here. The beans and peas, all cooked beans and peas, kidney beans, lentils, chickpeas. Starchy vegetables can be things such as white potatoes, corn, and green peas. And the other vegetable group is all, again, fresh, frozen, or canned. Things such as iceberg lettuce, green beans, and onions. Did you know that the vegetable subgroup of beans and peas, legumes, includes these different types of beans? Kidney beans, lentils, chickpeas, pinto beans, which are all a great source of both protein and fiber. So getting back a little bit to the whole grains and the message of at least half of your grains should be whole grains. So what does that mean? If we look at a picture of a grain, whole grains include the entire seed, usually called the kernel. And the kernel consists of 3 components: the bran, the germ, and endosperm. If the kernel has been cracked, crushed, or flaked, then to be called a whole grain, a food must retain the same relative proportions of these components as they exist in the intact grain. Can you guess which bread here is higher in whole grains just by reading the ingredients? Is it A, the one that has wheat flour, water, high fructose corn syrup, molasses, wheat, and bran? Or B, whole wheat flour, water, and brown sugar? It's B, the one that has whole wheat flour, water, and brown sugar. This picture shows us the difference that switching to fat-free or low-fat dairy can make. So if we compare the picture of a cup of whole milk, which contains 165 calories, to a cup of fat-free or skim milk, which only has 85 calories. So you're consuming almost twice as many calories if you're drinking the whole milk. The last message of My Plate is foods to reduce. So this is looking at nutrients such as sodium in foods like soups and breads and frozen meals, and choosing foods that have lower numbers. Also drinking water instead of sugary beverages and trying to reduce consumption of sugary beverages. So let's talk about sodium and take a guess here. How much sodium is in 1 teaspoon of salt? Is it A, 1,300 milligrams, B, 2,300, or C, 3,300? It's B, 2,300. The 2015 to 2020 Dietary Guidelines for Americans recommends that we consume less than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. So as you can see here, 1 teaspoon of salt gets us all the way up to that recommendation already. So some ways to reduce sodium intake. The first thing is to read nutrition labels. So all packaged foods tend to have a nutrition facts label. A real easy way to check out if a food is high or low in a given nutrient is take a peek to the right-hand side of the facts label at the % daily value column. If the value there is 15% or higher, that means that that food is high in that nutrient. If it's 5% or less, it means that it's low in that nutrient. So reading nutrition labels can really be a useful tool. Another tip is to avoid adding salt at the table, eating fresh foods in their whole form, and requesting salt be left off when eating out at restaurants. You can use other seasonings instead, such as spices and herbs. Remember, a variety of foods in moderation can fit into a healthy eating pattern if nutrient needs have been met without exceeding calorie limits. And regular physical activity helps to maintain calorie balance. So let me show you how easy it is to build a healthy My Plate. So we can start by taking our plate and filling it half with veggies and fruits. And then we can add a few colorful berries. And even if we wanted some other colorful vegetables, such as cherry tomatoes, broccoli, and red onion. So half of our plate immediately becomes veggies and fruits. Then the other half can be a whole grain. So in this example, we're going to use farro, which is a delicious whole grain. And we're going to take the farro and put it onto 1/4 of this plate. So it might look something like this. And we have 1/4 of the plate remaining for our lean protein source. So in this case, we're going to use a seasoned piece of salmon, which is also a fish rich in omega-3 fatty acids. And we might put a little bit of feta cheese on top of our veggies for dairy, and maybe some nuts, in this case pecans, which also are high in omega-3. And there we have it. So our plate represents something similar to the My Plate. that we just talked about. And we might top this off with a citrus vinaigrette.